y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney if you're new here, and today I have a very exciting video because we are going to be discussing my fall radar and my October TBR. Today is September 22nd, which means that fall officially begins tomorrow on the 23rd, and I have never been more excited for fall to roll around than I have this year. I just love everything that fall brings. I love the sweaters, the book shopping, the Uggs, the lattes, you name it, and I am here for it. My birthday is in October, and I feel like everyone always feels like their true authentic self more so during their birthday month. So maybe that's it, but either way, I'm super excited to get started with my October TBR. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So the first book that I have on my October TBR is War, and I'm so sad to say that I DNF'd this book. You can go ahead and judge me. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I don't necessarily know what went wrong with this book. I think it's just because these books are very thick. They are not small by any means. I was enjoying it, I was tabbing it, and I was really liking the series, but I think just the fact that I was trying to binge them was a little bit too much for me, especially since I'm used to my little small rom-coms and thrillers and stuff like that. I think it just became overwhelming, and I put it down for a little palate cleanser and unfortunately never picked it back up. But I do feel like fall is the perfect time to read fantasy, so I'm excited to restart this book. I got 200 pages in. I'm on page 232, so I do think that I'll go ahead and restart it because it's had to have been at least a month since I got to that point, and I want to make sure that I don't forget anything. So this is going to be the first book that I pick up once October begins. The next book on my TBR is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I have had this book for a very long time. I have the receipts still in it. I bought this when I went to DC last year in September. So I've had this book for right at a year now and I haven't picked it up. But everyone on their fall book recommendations has been recommending this book, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a chance. I'm actually reading right now. I'm actually currently reading The 7-Year Slip, which I think is this author's second novel, and I'm really enjoying the writing style, so I think that I'll like this book as well. This book is about a girl who is a ghostwriter for an author, and for some reason she has to return to her hometown, and when she goes there, she goes to a funeral parlor where she meets this ghost, and essentially they fall in love. I mean, that's what I'm assuming anyways. I remember being super intrigued by this when I did buy it in the bookstore, so I am excited to finally get around to it. The third book that is on my TBR for October is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book has been so anticipated, as I'm sure you all know. Because this has been so widely talked about, I don't necessarily see the point in describing it, but if you haven't heard of Fourth Wing, it's essentially been described as Harry Potter but with dragons. There's nothing I love more than Harry Potter in the fall, so this seems right up my alley. I've had a few colleagues that have read this book and really enjoyed it as well. And especially with the second book of this being released in a little more than a month, I definitely wanted to go ahead and read this before that one comes out. The next 3 books on my October TBR is actually a trilogy, and that is the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. It's crazy how things in life like just work out, because literally a week ago I was looking for this book online and it was all sold out. You couldn't order it. I don't know why. But then I went on a work trip to New York and went to Barnes, of course, because why wouldn't I? And there it sat on the table as if it was fate. If I'm being honest, the back of this book does nothing to help me understand what it's going to actually be about. But everyone loves it, and it's supposedly like a fantasy fairy tale, which I haven't explored yet, so I'm excited to read this book, and I will be reading the other 2 books. The second book is already out, The Ballad of Never After, and then the third book comes out at the end of October, which I think that one's called A Curse for True Love, or something along those lines. So I'm super excited to just binge this series because I have such a strong feeling I'm going to love it. The last books that I have on my October TBR are just some kind of fun Halloween-y books that I thought would just really set the Halloween vibe. Halloween is my favorite holiday and I just get so excited. That's all I can say. It gets me so giddy inside. So we have My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. Everyone has been picking this up lately. I don't know if this just came out. I'm assuming that it did because I haven't heard anyone talk about it prior. Yes, this came out in August 2023, so very brand new. Basically, this girl gets evicted from her apartment and has to find somewhere else to live. So she finds this apartment that she could share with someone, but it seems like too good to be true, like what's the catch type vibe. Basically, she just thinks that her roommate is really sus. She's finding these blood bags, he's gone all the time, like what the heck is going on? And obviously, I am hoping there is some romance in this, so we will see. Then we have Spells for Lost Things by Jenna Evans Welsh. I randomly found this book, but it seems like it'll be so fun. Our main character's aunt dies, so she returns home to Salem, Massachusetts for the funeral and to kind of wrap up some last minute things. When she's there, she meets this guy and he helps her unveil the secrets of her mother's past, and as it turns out, they're like a family of witches. At least that's what I'm assuming happens because it's Salem, Massachusetts, but we'll see if that's actually the case. I'm really hoping that it is because romance with witches would be so fun for October. And the last book that I have on my October TBR is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. Destiny here on BookTube was talking about this book in her fall recommendations and TBR video. She said that it was like Halloween Town, and I grew up on Disney's Halloween Town. That's my favorite Halloween movie. I still watch it every single year, and that honestly sold me. Again, I don't know what this book is necessarily about, but I know that Destiny said it's perfect to read on Halloween night, and that's exactly what I plan to do. So those are the 10 books that I have on my October TBR. I definitely wanted to fit more books into October, but I just don't think that I could personally fit more than 10 if I can even read those 10. Oh my goodness, I'm just now realizing that I forgot to mention a book that I don't physically have. So the actual last book on my October TBR is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I always forget when I pre-order things. If you saw Rachel Catherine's video explaining Girl Math Book Edition, if I ordered it pre-order, it's free, and I also forgot about it and don't know that it's coming. I really did enjoy Icebreaker when I read it at the beginning of the year, maybe February, March, around that time. I immediately pre-ordered Wildfire on Kindle. So the second book is about two characters that are in Icebreaker, Aurora and Russ, and they're going to be like camp counselors. And that just seems so fun to me, like the idea of a summer camp. I grew up going to summer camps, so a summer camp romance seems like so fun. And like I said, I loved Icebreaker, so I have high expectations for Wildfire. It comes out on October 3rd, so it'll probably be higher up on my October TBR, but I'm very excited to read that one as well. I can't believe I almost forgot to include it. So that's the actual full list of the 10 books on my October TBR. That list was carefully curated. There was a lot more books that I felt like fit the October vibes, but I had to keep it down. I didn't want to overwhelm myself. That being said, we're now going to get into the books that are still on my fall radar, but I just might not read them in October particularly. The first book that I have on my fall radar, I do not have the physical copy of because I will be reading it on Kindle Unlimited, and that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book is a fantasy book that's still kind of set in the normal world and everything. There's just magical elements to it, and these two rival journalists find some sort of connection through these letters. And there's some politics, war type thing with the gods going on, and they're fighting with one another, helping one another, and overall everyone's raved about it, and I'm super excited to get into it. And then the second book comes out in, I believe, the end of December, so I'm excited to go ahead and read this before the other one comes out. And the second book that I have on my radar, I also do not have the physical copy of, but I have also pre-ordered it, which is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, the second book of Fourth Wing. Since I haven't read Fourth Wing yet, I don't know what that book's gonna be about, and honestly, it's kind of bold of me to go ahead and pre-order it when I haven't even read the first one in the series, but that's just how I live my life, on the edge. The third book that I have on my radar is the final book that I don't have a physical copy for, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I've been trying to get my hands on it physically in the store before resorting to ordering it online, but honestly, I don't think that's gonna happen. I haven't been able to find it at my local Barnes or in any other retail store around me, so I think I'm gonna have to cave and go ahead and order it online. This is another one that I'm just being extremely influenced to buy. I remember a long time ago on TikTok, I saw the author of this book post that she was publishing a novel, and I remember being astonished because she's a pretty young author. I was like, wow, fantasy is just such a fall vibe, and this is the time for me to be really divulging in fantasy books. That being said, I also have the remainder of the ACOTAR series on my radar for the fall. So after I read ACOWAR, obviously I will read the novella, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then I will finish off by reading A Court of Silver Flames. I do want to go ahead and finish the ACOTAR series so that I can start reading Throne of Glass. Then we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. You know I had to throw myself a bone and throw some romance in there. This book is about a woman who runs into the first and only love of her life from her teenage years, and it kind of brings the iceberg to the surface of what happened all those years ago when they ended things. And I do tend to enjoy books that have an alternating timeline. I don't know why, I just really love seeing the then and now. I think it adds a new dimension to any story. The cover is super pretty. I'm really hoping that I love it because I've seen quite a few people that have raved over this book. I figured there was no better time than the present to go ahead and start the Magnolia Parks universe, so that is exactly what I'm going to do. I just purchased my own copy of the first Magnolia Parks book. This book, in short, is about a toxic relationship between London socialite Magnolia Parks and this guy named BJ Valentine. I'm sure it's a lot more elaborate than that, but just from the synopsis on the back, that's what I'm getting, and from what everyone has said, this is extremely toxic. I'm not against toxic though. One of the first series that I read after getting back into reading was the After series, and that book is extremely toxic and I loved every second of it. I'm very scared to start this because if it makes me feel the way that After did, I don't know how I'm going to react or how I will ever recover. But that's a chance that I'm willing to take on this book. The next book I need to jump to reading, I should have put it on my October TBR, but I really just don't know what it is, but I'm not that excited to read it. That is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I think that I'm just not as excited about this because I checked it out from the library a while ago, and when I first saw it on the shelf, I was jumping for joy that I didn't have to buy my own copy, but now it's sat on my shelf and that excitement has kind of like dwindled down a little bit. All that I know about this book is that it's based in New York City, it's a rivalry between two families, and I'm assuming based off of the Romeo and Juliet description that it so widely gets that it is about a romance between two members of those families. I'm sure that once I actually pick this up and start reading it, I'll be excited again, but it's just not the first one that I'm like craving to grab. In my last vlog, I picked up a few books at Barnes, and if you didn't see that video, those books were The Naturals, and then I also picked up The Haunting of Ashburn House, and both of these are going to go on my fall radar. The Naturals is the first book in the series, and this series is about this program that recruits teenagers with special abilities to help them solve cold cases with the FBI and stuff. And then The Haunting of Ashburn House just drew me to it from the shelf. I don't know what it was about it. Maybe it was the cover. I really do like the cover. This is by Darcy Coates. And I forgot to mention the Natural series is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She also wrote the Inheritance Games, which I also haven't read, but I hope to soon. But back to The Haunting of Ashburn House, this is by Darcy Coates. I've never heard of her writing before, but this is essentially a haunted house story, and I'm excited to read it. I haven't read a book that's supposed to be scary necessarily, so I'm excited to read this because I do love horror. The second to last book that I have on my radar is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I actually gifted this book to my sister-in-law maybe last Christmas, and I saw that she read it. I think that she enjoyed it, so I'm excited to get into it myself. This book is about a high school senior named Pip, I believe, who decides to like reinvestigate a closed case. Throughout the way, I think that she kind of digs up some things that others would have rather stayed buried, and it kind of puts her in danger. This is young adult, and usually young adult mysteries are super easy to read, so I'm excited to get into this because I would love a quick, fast-paced mystery. And the last book that I have on my radar for this fall season is Light Lark by Alex Astor. This book is another book that I was influenced to buy based on TikTok. This book is about an island, Light Lark, that appears every 100 days to host a game of sorts. There's 6 rulers of the realms, and they're each fighting to break like their own curse. I don't know, for some reason this made me think of the Hunger Games, and it probably isn't anything like the Hunger Games, but that's what inspired me to buy it. So those are all of the books that I'm hoping to read this fall season. I have quite a few that I want to get through, and I may be tooting my own horn, but I feel like this is a really good set of books. If you've read any of the books that I plan to read, please let me know what you thought about them, or if you have any that you think I should read first. As always, if you liked today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, y'all.